Unfortunately, not every team succeeds because of, well, the team. Sometimes a reign of dominance is only purported because of one star player. One guy who's just holding everything together. Whether it's due to their skill, leadership abilities, or just that special X factor, some teams out there throughout history have definitely been held afloat by one single guy. Historic great NFL franchises like the Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, Dallas Cowboys, and Pittsburgh Steelers have been blessed with so many great players throughout their histories. And then, well, there are some franchises out there that, truth be told, would be in complete irrelevance if not for that one single player who changed absolutely everything forever. So today, we present to you 10 NFL teams that would have been nothing without that one star player.
You know it's going to be a battle. Bottom line is, do you make the plays at the end of the game to win the game, right? Defensively, we did, absolutely.
New England Patriots, Tom Brady. As hard as it is for millennials and Generation Z to believe, the Patriots were once an NFL laughingstock. Back in 1997, Robert Kraft fired legendary head coach Bill Parcells, and the team nearly relocated to Hartford before Kraft saved the day and kept them in Foxborough. The Patriots made the Super Bowl in the 1985 and 96 seasons, but they were merely nice underdog stories that never really stood a chance, eventually just getting destroyed by the Chicago Bears and Green Bay Packers in the big games. The football team's rise from zeros to heroes only began in 2000 when the Patriots used the number 199 selection on one Tom Brady. Consider that the Patriots went 5-11 in Bill Belichick's first year as head coach when Brady was a backup to Drew Bledsoe. The Pats then started 0-2 in 2001, then turned to Brady following an injury to Bledsoe. And, well, the rest, as they say, is history. The Patriots went on to win their first of 6 Super Bowls that year in the Brady-Belichick era. In fact, New England never had a losing season in Brady's 10 years as their starting QB. Excluding the 2008 season when he missed all but a few minutes, the Patriots only missed the playoffs once when Brady was at the helm. Oh, and how did the Patriots do after letting Brady leave in 2020? Well, they just went 29-38-0 with 1 winning season and 0 playoff victories. Oh well, I guess so much for Bill Belichick being the main catalyst of the New England dynasty over Brady. Man, to think that this would be a poverty franchise if the Pats didn't hit the jackpot with that Tom Brady draft choice. San Francisco 49ers, Joe Montana. The 49ers franchise had a whopping 3 playoff wins in their history before they drafted Joe Montana in the 3rd round, 82nd overall, back in 1979. The Notre Dame product took over as the 49ers starting QB in the midst of the sophomore 1980 season. San Francisco finished 6-10, marking their 4th straight losing season and a 9th straight year without a playoff W. 1981 marked Montana's first full season as the 49ers starting QB, where he led them to 13 wins and a Super Bowl 16 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals, that being the first Lombardi trophy for the red and gold. Montana would lead the 49ers to 4 Super Bowl championships in the 80s decades. And for those wondering about Jerry Rice and Steve Young, well, the 49ers won 2 Super Bowls before Rice even arrived. And we dare say that Young wouldn't have had a Hall of Fame career in Super Bowl 29 winning season if he didn't get to learn behind Montana for all those years. Yes, the 49ers had many superstars and Hall of Famers contribute to their dynasty that produced 5 Super Bowls. But it all started with Joe Montana. He was the architect who built the road to greatness. Denver Broncos, John Elway. Before Elway's arrival in 1983, the Broncos had 2 playoff wins in their history, both of which came in the 1977 season. In fact, it wasn't until the franchise's 14th year in 1973 that they tallied a winning record for the first time. The Baltimore Colts drafted Elway first overall in 1983, but he refused to play for them. So a deal was reached to send him to the QB-needy Broncos, and the football world was forever changed after that. You see, Elway led the Broncos to 5 Super Bowl appearances during his 16-year Hall of Fame career. After losing the first 3, the 9-time Pro Bowler finally broke through with back-to-back Super Bowl championships to close out his career in 1997 and 98. And for those who want to bring up the 2015 Broncos squad that won Super Bowl 50, well, Elway built that team by himself as the GM, having single-handedly recruited Peyton Manning in the 2012 free agency. So if Elway hadn't won the Manning sweepstakes, the Broncos would have been a laughingstock throughout the entire 2010s. As a player and GM, Elway is responsible for 7 Broncos Super Bowl appearances and 3 championships. This franchise would be a complete laughingstock if they had never gotten their hands on him back in 1983. It's just as simple as that. Houston Texans, J.J. Watt. It was hard to harp on the Texans' struggles during their first 9 years of their existence. They joined the league as an expansion franchise in 2002 and faced a very lengthy process in building a competent team, not to mention being stuck in the same division as Peyton Manning's powerhouse Indianapolis Colts. But after the Texans used the number 11 pick of 2011 on defensive end J.J. Watt, that franchise finally began a run of relevance. Watt led Houston to back-to-back AFC South Division titles in 2011 and 2012, as well as their first 2 playoff wins in franchise history. He won 2012, 2014, and 2015 Defensive Player of the Year honors, emerging as the NFL's best defensive player in the first half of the decade. Watt's leadership and stardom also got the best out of other defensive stalwarts like Whitney Mercilus, Jadeveon Clowney, and Brian Cushing. All told, the Texans went to the postseason 6 times in the J.J. Watt era, winning 6 AFC South Division crowns and 4 playoff games. It's no coincidence that the Texans were a mess for the first 2 years of the post-J.J. Watt era. He was the heart and soul of that team for 10 whole years. And let's not forget that he stood up to Bill O'Brien before the latter's firing in the 2020 season. B.O.B. deserved that for destroying the team with the mind-numbing DeAndre Hopkins and Jadeveon Clowney trades. The Texans returned to prominence in 2023 thanks to the arrivals of DeMeco Ryans, C.J. Stroud, and Will Anderson Jr. But let's not forget that their jump from irrelevance to, well, relevance began way back when with Watt in 2011. New York Jets, Joe Namath. If you remove the New York Jets Super Bowl III victory from their history, you'll be talking about the NFL's ultimate poverty franchise. I mean, at least other sad fan bases like the Cleveland Browns and Detroit Lions have multiple NFL championship banners. Heck, even the Buffalo Bills and Minnesota Vikings have each won 4 conference championships. The Jets are literally only semi-relevant, historically speaking, because of one man. That being Broadway Joe Namath. The Pro Football Hall of Famer put his Jets on the map when he led them to an AFL championship in 1968. They were supposed to be no match for the powerhouse Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III, but Namath boldly guaranteed that his team would take down the 18-point favorites. And they did just that all right. The Colts upset the Colts 16-7 to claim their first Super Bowl title, and their only one to date. New York hasn't been back to the big dance ever since, and they've been an absolute train wreck since losing back-to-back AFC title games in 2009 and 2010. Like we said, where would this franchise be in the historical context without Broadway Joe and his legendary fulfilled promise in 1968? New York Giants, Lawrence Taylor. Tom Brady being the GOAT of NFL players may be undisputable, but you know what else is undisputable? LT being the greatest defensive player in NFL history. The number 2 pick of the 1981 NFL Draft put the New York Giants on the map during the 80s with 2 Hall of Fame coaches in Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. Make no mistake, Lawrence Taylor was the Giants during their first run of dominance. New York didn't make the postseason once from 1964 to 1980, and they had last won a league title in 1956. After LT's arrival, they became an NFC juggernaut for the next decade. Taylor was the anchor of the Giants squad that won their first 2 Super Bowl championships in the 1986 and 1990 seasons. Did you know that he was the last defensive player to win league MVP honors, having done so back in 1986? And Taylor set the Giants' culture and identity as a hard-hitting, smash-em-in-the-mouth football team. And they carried that blueprint over into the Michael Strahan and Justin Tuck years. A blueprint that ended up netting them 2 more Super Bowls in the 2007 and 2011 seasons. Detroit Lions, Bobby Lane. As we just noted on the Jets Namath entry, the Detroit Lions are in the sad club of NFL franchises. This team has never been to a Super Bowl for starters, as 2023 marked their very first playoff win and NFC Championship game appearance in 32 years. It was also the franchise's first division title winning season since 1993. But old-time Lions fans will tell you younger folks that life hasn't always been this bad. This team was a dynasty way back when in the 1950s with quarterback Bobby Lane. Lane played for the Lions from 1950 until he was traded to the Steelers midseason in 1958. The 6-time Pro Bowler led Detroit to NFL championships in 1952, 1953, and 1957. He sported a superb 53-29-2 record as the Lions' starting QB. But once the Lions traded Lane to the Steelers, the so-called Curse of Bobby Lane was born, as the franchise slipped into irrelevance for the next 6.5 decades before Dan Campbell turned these guys into an NFC juggernaut in 2023. Remove Detroit's Hall of Fame QB from their history, and you'd be talking about an embarrassingly and historically horrible franchise for nearly a full century and counting. Buffalo Bills, Jim Kelly. The Bills fan base has been through far more heartbreak than almost any other in North American professional sports. But longtime Bills fans still remember and celebrate the thrill of the 90s juggernaut that got oh so close to championship glory. The Bills went from laughable loser to perennial contender following Jim Kelly's arrival in 1986. Yes, Bruce Smith, Andre Reed, and Thurman Thomas deserve credit as well, but it was really Kelly who engineered Buffalo's no-huddle offense that put his football team on the map in the early 90s. The Bills franchise was not the same when Kelly retired in 1997. Consider that they won 0 playoff games between 1996 and 2019. 2020 also marked their first AFC Championship game appearance since 1993, when Kelly was still at the peak of his powers. I mean, look, think about how great Josh Allen is. But we're still looking at a guy who hasn't taken Buffalo to a single Super Bowl, whereas Kelly got the Bills there 4 times. Oh man, where would this team's all-time win-loss record stand if they just never landed this Hall of Fame QB in the first place? Honestly, don't really even want to think about it. Baltimore Ravens, Ray Lewis. Following their relocation from Cleveland to Baltimore, the organization got a clean slate and changed its team name to the Ravens. With the number 26 pick in the 1996 draft, the Ravens drafted Miami linebacker Ray Lewis. And this new NFL franchise never looked back. Lewis emerged as the best defensive player of his era, anchoring Baltimore's lights-out defense for 17 years from 1996 to 2012. Not only did he bring the heat on the field, but you could argue that he is the greatest single-player leader of all time, going by his pregame speeches at least. Lewis got the most out of his teammates, including other legends like Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, and Rod Woodson. Without Lewis, those Ravens wouldn't have won Super Bowl championships in the 2000 and 2012 seasons. Lewis's all-world play, leadership, and swagger was the ultimate difference maker for a Ravens franchise that would be absolutely nothing today if not for his presence. New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees. The Saints fan base became so fed up with this team's long losing history that they began showing up to the Superdome in paper bags in the 1980s. Yeah, seriously, it got that bad. As longtime New Orleans football fans will recall, this team was often referred to as the Aints during the rock bottom years. The Saints joined the NFL in 1967. They didn't make the postseason nor record a winning season for the first time until 1987. They didn't win their first playoff game in franchise history until 2000. Think about that. 34 years to win a single playoff game. The Saints would follow up their first playoff win in franchise history by, missing the playoffs in each of the next 5 years. The devastating tragedy of Hurricane Katrina in 2005 forced the franchise to temporarily move out of New Orleans. That year, they had to play their home games at Giant Stadium, LSU's Tiger Stadium, and San Antonio's Alamo Dome. But everything started coming together for this long-suffering fan base in 2006. They hired Sean Payton as head coach and won the Drew Brees free agency sweepstakes after the Miami Dolphins memorably passed on him in favor of Dante Culpepper, believing that Brees would never bounce back from shoulder surgery on his throwing arm. Brees and Payton immediately formed one of the greatest QB coaching tandems ever, leading the Saints to the NFC South Division crown and their first conference championship game appearance in 2006. Brees would spend 15 years in New Orleans. He led them to the playoffs 9 times, to 3 AFC Championship game appearances, and of course, a victory in Super Bowl 44 over Peyton Manning's Indianapolis Colts. If not for the Minneapolis Miracle or the horrible NOLA no call, Brees would likely be a multi-time champion. Brees retired as the all-time passing yards and passing TDs leader, though Tom Brady would go on to break both those records. Seeing how the Saints have played since his retirement in 2021, yeah, I'd say that this franchise would be suffering for 6 decades and counting now if they'd never signed him back in 2006. But hey, which other NFL franchises would be absolutely nothing if not for that one star player? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.